Good afternoon. I'm Pius, yourself a founder at Hamilton Black Film Festival. Today I'm with the talented film director, Calvin Walker. He's the director of Checkout Time, award-winning director. I'm happy to have you here today. Welcome to.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
You're welcome. So today we're going to talk about your film, Checkout Time. This film was written well. The beginning of the film, you can tell the kind of shot you choose to start the film. So just tell us a little bit about that shot, those two shots that goes to the hotel.
Yeah, it was so important for us. This is my first time moving into the horror space, the horror thriller space. And one of the big things that I wanted to make sure was a part of the film is the hotel was a character in and of itself. And so finding ways to really bring that into the fore visually and kind of making it this larger than life um, character in its own self before we even get into it to kind of set the pace of, this space has a life of its own.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, the film. Yeah, the moment the guest they came to the hotel, so we're gonna go right in there. So they realized that the environment, a little bit, they were checking on the environment. So you can tell that Isabel was so skeptical about the environment. All right. So they didn't find any waiter or any receptionist. So as they were looking at, all of a sudden somebody just out of nowhere. So can you tell us about that, because that was the beginning of what is to come. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah. There that the owner, who is brilliantly played by my dear friend Jasmine Shanice, she is this omnipresent figure, who is always there even when she isn't. And when she chooses to come forth, it's always at a specific time, and she always waits to hear something that kind of eggs her on or aggravates her. And so the character was like, this is a place, it was like Hansel and Gretel, died here. And that was the thing that, kind of provoked her, because this hotel, as she says later on, it's like her baby. So when people speak ill of it, it's just like, hey, I'm here. You don't want to say about my kid. And so we wanted to again kind of create that space, for people to feel like somebody's in the room with them, but they don't know where they're in the room with them. And whenever she manifests in this place of power, and it immediately, lets you know this character plays by her own rules. We don't know where she's coming from. We don't know when she's coming, but we know that that it's her game.
Yeah, she played the role very well. The role she played very well, because it's very difficult to find, to cast someone who's just
Mm.
master everything. Her eloquence, everything about that. She makes everything comes alive the way she acted. So, okay, let's go to when she was having a conversation with Isabel. She realized that they were going to a wedding, and that just triggered her about a wedding. Is it because of what had happened to her in the past about her marriage or something like that?
It is. It's not only what happened to her in her marriage, it's the idea that she's a purist, if you will. She is the little girl who grew up, who wanted a family. She wanted to be married. She planned her wedding from the time that she was 10, and she knew what flowers she would have. And so love has always been something that's really important to her, and the sanctity of marriage and the beauty of weddings. But that trauma made her almost this protector of love. She feels like it is her job now, after everything is kind of shaken down, to make sure that love is protected. And when she hears people who love, she's like, hey, I like you. But when she encounters people who disrespect it, that's when there begins problems happen after she can detect that you don't quite respect love like you should.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about Jordan and Isabel. They are friends, all right?
Mm,
Jordan have a girl that he's going to marry, Jessica, and but the best friend, Isabel, in her own way, realized that she's not the best for him, all right? And okay,
mm.
tell us a little bit, how you were able to put them together, a best friend who will later become his girlfriend, and so how everything came together. Just give us a hint about that.
Yeah. So it all starts on the page, and our brilliant producer Taylor Love, she was the person who was the first writer on the. This is her baby, and this came from her. And one of the things that were in the bones of the story, the very beginning, where these were two friends who had this kind of discovered love between them, and Taylor was so just kind and. Uh, I said, "Hey, can I come in and just massage some things in the
Yeah,
script?" Um, and she allowed me to. And also, the guy that played Jordan Corey, he was also a contributor into kind of massaging the script. But one of the things that I wanted to do. Uh, I wanted Checkout Time to be this mix between The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix and Brown Sugar, um, because I think Brown Sugar is like one of the quintessential, 90s movies. When you think about Black love movies in the 90s, you think about Love Jones, Best Man, and Brown Sugar. And there was just something about Taye Diggs and Sanaa Lathan's relationship that I really wanted Jordan and Bill to have. This sense of we know each other so well, and everybody around us knows that one day the light's going to come off for both of us, but they're not going to tell us they were supposed to be together, because if they did, we would totally deny it. And so, their surrounding friends and family have left them to discover it themselves. And sometimes it takes somebody saying, "Hey, I'm going to get married," for you to say, "You know what, this may be my only time to go ahead and shoot my shot. The light is on, so I'm going to tell you, how I feel." And that's what happened here. It's just that evolution of friendship, and sometimes being so close to someone, you don't realize who they are to you, until something triggers you, and helps you understand that this is not just friend love, but this is romantic love.
ladies and gentlemen, I'm speaking with the award-winning director, Checkout Time, Calvin Walker. So you see, what made this film authentic is that the story, you have two friends going to a wedding, find a hotel where they can, have fun, talk about, before the wedding and everything. All of a sudden, something happens. It's just like something that can happen when you are not expecting anything strange.
Yeah.
That's what makes it more authentic to me. So let's talk about the owner of the hotel, Jessica, again, because she's over everything. You know,
She is.
when she was speaking, that's why I said she's so eloquent. When she was speaking, the pace. So you can find some awkward moments. All right, like you can watch Isabel rolling her, try to understand where this conversation is going, and she was right there. At that very moment, like Jordan, the guy who played Jordan, you can find that Isabel is more security conscious or about the environment than Jordan. Jordan is just an open, he just he thought everything was okay.
Hmm.
No, tell us about that. How that speech when he went to the hotel, all of a sudden, their hotel room, she shows up and she starts telling them about a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Working with Jasmine, and the casting of Amy is interesting. So when the piece was written, we knew we wanted the leads to be black, and originally Amy was an older white lady, and the producer, Corey, God bless him. Jasmine had also auditioned for Belle, the other lead, and he said, "Hey, what if we let Jazz audition for Amy too?" I said, "Hey, I'm for it," because she's like a sister to me. So I'm like, sure, absolutely, let's do it. And she did. And when we saw her, we saw some other amazing actresses as well. But the minute that I saw her on screen, I was like, whoa. And it was so, I was so taken aback because I talk to her all the time, so I know her actual voice, I know her accent, like I know her, and I was like, she really found something in this lady. And as we got to develop Amy together in the pre-production process, we really, really tried our best to pull references from classic work. We tried our best to pull references from things like Eve's Bayou and Moselle's speech when she's talking about her husbands in the famous mirror scene. There's just a real even pace to it, and it makes it seem kind of creepy and intense. Because what I didn't want this film to feel like they're trying to make a horror. I wanted it to feel like they're making a movie about love and all of its horrors. And Jasmine found this really interesting way to to um to create a tone that when she zones out, you can hear that she's left the room. When she's talking to Belle and Jordan, she's speaking, more in the upper part of her voice, and she's using her upper register, which a lot of us do for customer service, right? Hey, how you doing? Good to meet you. But when she, I love weddings, and like you feel like she has disconnected
That's
completely,
right. That's right.
and she really discovered the voice of this woman and used it to its full extent, and it was just brilliant.
That's what's great about this film. It wasn't something that he do like so strange, like it's spooky or whatever, but you can sense the presence of illogical, you know. So
Yes.
those are the things that that I like about this film. All right, it's
Mhm.
right there all the way. Every scene show you something where the pattern where the film is going.
Mm.
So that's the reason. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm speaking with one and only talented director, winning award winner, Calvin Walker. You are welcome here today. We're talking about his film, Checkout Time. This film is well written and shot, directed. I've watched this film. Go and watch this film, you will understand what we're talking about today. So let's talk about the two characters, so the guest.
Mm.
At what point did they realize they were in a place that they had to leave right now?
I think the point I really realized that they had to leave was when she manifested in the room. The minute they were like, "Oh, you're here. This is odd." They knew at that point. But I think Belle, and for me it was very important to give this to her, because I've lived my whole life with Black women. My mother is a wonderful Black woman. My sister is. A lot of my best friends are, and Black women are very intuitive. And it's not just Black women, but the ones that I know, they know things. And so Belle has always, been kind of on guard. If something is not, it's not bad, but it's just not quite right. And so you see kind of her intuition working. But the minute that they know for sure that it's time to go was when Amy manifests in the room. That's the clear sign that it's time to leave.
Okay, that's great. Let's talk about the character of Michael. When he appeared, when serving them, being a waiter to midnight dinner or whatever, they
Mm.
sat down there, the way he appeared, the way he spoke with them. It's just like the good thing about this, everybody is so unique. They play their character role that is different from the other character, but at the same time, it's the same goal, moving the story forward. All right,
Yes.
so that's quite interesting. So when he came to the scene, the way he played, serving the water, and Yasmin came back and teaching him how to, serve the guest. It makes his thing more authentic. That the story, it makes it real. Like it just brings the whole story together there. Then she asked Michael to leave. Then she took over. And
Hmm.
that very instant was when everything about this film, they realize that they're in the wrong place at the very moment. Can you tell us about
Yeah,
that?
there was a, that is one of my favorite scenes. We when we were on set shooting, I changed a bit of it. Because there was like more of a monologue there for Jasmine whenever she was correcting Michael. And I was like, you know what? Don't just keep like really short instructions like you would a kid, because it intensifies this idea of her being authority and him being this kind of diminished character in the scene. And they really Selassie Bachway, who played Michael, just did a great job of finding a way to be human even though he wasn't. That's the thing that I really enjoyed about Salasa. You can tell that something about him quite isn't completely present, but he really humanizes the role, and it makes it interesting and it makes it believable, and it makes it different.
That's good. That's a great. That seems really good. That seems good. So, when you look at this film, what do you think that makes Jasmine angry? You know, is it because the guests they said they are related? She's my sister, and all of a sudden she realized that we are in bed together. Was that one
Mhm.
of the things that makes her angry?
Yeah, it is. Like I say, she feels like she's a protector of love. She's a guardian of it. And she knows that he has a girlfriend back home, and you're not the girlfriend. So that means that you don't respect relationships. And when you don't respect relationships, I come as the guardian of love to correct the situation. And so that triggers her. It's one of the things that for me was really important as we were putting this together, and as I was talking to Jazz, because sometimes villains in horror, they're just villains, and it's like, oh, they're doing terrible things. It's like, I want you to, for me it was about Amy's trauma. And anybody who is familiar with trauma knows that oftentimes things trigger unresolved trauma.
Yeah,
And so you may be in a similar situation that traumatized you. And if you haven't known that trauma, you may act out, you may, do things that are out of character
yeah,
because it's triggered your trauma. And so we approached Jasmine's kind of irrationality as a trauma response versus just kind of being this angry villain,
yeah,
which one of the coolest things that I've heard, as we've been taking this places, is I've never seen a piece where I felt bad for the villain.
yeah,
Like I understood all of her pain.
yeah.
She was still crazy and she was wrong, but I understood her. I had empathy for her, and that was one of the things we wanted to really embrace, is this idea of trauma does cause you to traumatize others, but in the under the layers of it, there's a hurt woman, right, who you can find empathy for.
Great film. I love the film.
Thank
Ladies and
you.
gentlemen, we're talking to Calvin Walker, the award-winning director of Checkout Time. I watched his film. Checkout Time is a great film. It takes you little by little into horror, but without you knowing it. It's
Yes, indeed.
well directed, you know. I'm
Mhm.
happy to have you here today, Calvin. You know, your film, and thank you for submitting your film to our festival. And
Absolutely, it
we
was
are
our
grateful
pleasure.
that you want to give a shout out to your crew.
Yes, please. So our producers, Taylor Love and Corey Pratt, from Third Eye Pictures and Vanta Media, respectively. Uh, my amazing AD, La Belle, who saved me. We shot this 20-page piece in 2 days. Um, And if you've seen the pieces, it's like, well, there are fight scenes and sex scenes, and it was a lot to cover in 2 days. And she was my rock through the process. And she yelled at all the people when I was too tired to yell at the people and say, "You got to come on, we're running late." She's my absolute rock. And our amazing actors, Corey Pratt, who was Jordan, Jacque Wade Pearson, who was Belle. Um, Amy Hanter, Jasmine Shanice, Rebecca, Brittany Blewett, and Selassie, who was Michael, and our amazing crew. I can't name all of them, but I have to name my dear, dear brother, Mark Raggington, who was our cinematographer. Um, he just did an incredible job. It was my first time working with Mark. And the thing about Mark that I love is Mark is as particular as I am. And we spent a lot of time in pre-production pulling references, and I love working with people who challenge you, who ask you why you're doing something. Like, so what's the point of this? And it's not in a, a way to undermine, but it's a, what is the intention? Because if your intention in a shot is something, maybe I have something else that is more in line with the intention that I can send you. Or maybe I need to figure out, how I can better tap into the intention with the framing that you have in mind. And so it was always this really beautiful collaborative energy that I had with him. And he worked so diligently to make sure that everything visually that I was going for, he was giving me. And they lit all of the chocolate skin and the yellow skin, which is so beautiful, which was a big thing for me. Um, you see independent films, and there are times where Black people on screen look ashy and gray and sickly. And it's just like, we have two really beautiful brown skinned people in my leads, and we have a love scene. Like, I need you all to make it feel like their skin is just pouring with Vaseline. Like, I need it to really look gorgeous and lush. And he did a phenomenal job. Him and his crew did an amazing job with that. So we were so blessed to have a crew of people who came together, who understood the intention, who dealt with all of my craziness, and still loved me through it, at least most of them. Because it's like, I'm sure you understand, 20 pages in 2 days is, it's a lot.
It's
And
a
there's a
lot.
lot
I
of
know.
conversation here.
To make
But
sense of it, yeah.
they were up to the task. They worked 16-hour days. They were delusional and sleepy. But every time I called action, everybody was where they should be. And they were willing to do another one if it wasn't right. So we're just so blessed to have people who love the craft, you know, like I do. And they weren't just, oh, we're going to make a movie. Nope, no, 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 no. We're making art, and we need to be intentional about it. And so all of our crew was just phenomenal.
That's phenomenal, man. Yeah, I always believe that if you set up your story properly, it becomes a reference as you move the story along.
Hmm.
So the setup of your story, there was something there that's look like foreshadow, but it's right there because of the setup. So as the story goes along, you see the reference start coming.
Yeah.
That was something great. I like that style. I like that style. It's one of my style too. And so I'm grateful to have you here today, Calvin Walker, award-winning director of Checkout Times. Thanks for coming to our show today. This is called HBFF Filmmakers POV. Thanks for joining us today. Have a great
All
week.
right. God bless you.
God bless. Thanks, man.